we go. I bet that's a whole lot better. Much, much better. Had my DSLR set up, but it doesn't, besides it doesn't want to work. Let me see if I can get this guy focused a little bit more. Better. That looks better. Had my DSLR set up here, but it just said, nope, not doing it. Not doing it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wait for a few of you guys to show up, because I know everybody's got a lot of questions. I figured this was a much easier way to field questions about the EVO, about CES, about all the other things that I learned there as far as just electronics in general. Something that should be very clear, that may not be as clear to everybody in the world, but you know. So we've got one. And I'm going to say I've saved a lot of photos on my wife's computer, but being so late and doing what I do, you know, plowing snow, that's why we got stuck in Indianapolis, Atlanta, trying to get back. She's actually on the computer now. I couldn't get the files transferred over so that, you know, I can show you guys pictures and things. Especially because one of the things that I did was I tried to transfer photos from my Pixel to a USB so it would stop constantly trying to upload photos and videos that was ruining just ruin the quality of the phone, because the internet out there is just horrible. So unfortunately, I don't have much more to show other than the picture that you see. Where is it? Right here, of the EVO folded up with the 1-inch sensor. So I'll start off with, let's just say the X-Star. Its future from here on out, and finally some clarification for me for the FLIR camera and the 1-inch sensor camera, which all of you should understand. After speaking with a few of the guys there and finding out that the X-Star is no more, as far as production, they're not going to produce them anymore. Which is fine. It really is old technology at this point. I mean, shoot, nothing's made to last for more than a year or two until the next greatest thing comes out, like the EVO. The explanation for not having for not having the FLIR camera or the 1-inch sensor camera was basically being a small fish in a big pond. The FLIR camera problem was FLIR has a real good habit as far as changing something in their smaller cameras for every iteration. So every time they produce one, they say, okay, this is good. Well, then they figure out a way to do something better or get a part cheaper or something of that nature, and they change it, which changes how the interface works, I guess, with the software on the X-Star. So they couldn't take, they couldn't make a mass order of the cameras to justify having it, really. And it's sad that they promoted it so much and didn't come out with it. But after I heard the explanation, it made a lot of sense. Number one, you guys got to think when the X-Star came out. They promoted it so heavily with the FLIR camera, and now I'm sorry guys, I'm just frazzled the past couple of days. The X-Star costing $800–900 when it first came out, $8,000–9,000. they couldn't really see anybody paying $1,500 or more for a FLIR camera for this drone. The market just wasn't there, so they couldn't order enough of the FLIR cameras to make it a viable option for producing, for making it a production part, unfortunately. And then with the fact that FLIR changes the camera every so often, every production run, and that was another big problem. So that's why we never got the FLIR camera. And other than a few prototypes and some of the stuff you've seen on, some of their advertisements and things like that, there aren't too many of them out there. There might be one or two people out there that actually have one, but it's no more. Now, the 1-inch camera on the X-Star, that was really something they were really pushing hard to try to get. But the problem is that everybody in the world wants that sensor, wants that Sony sensor to put in their cameras so that they can say they've got a 1-inch Sony sensor. Not just the X-Star, but every other freaking drone manufacturer out there. And it's crazy because there are so many. I did not know until I went to CES that there were that many companies trying to get these tiny little sensors. And not just for drones, but for every other camera that's there. Most every other camera there uses some kind of Sony sensor. So unless you can go to Sony and say, hey, I need 200,000 V's, they're not going to put you high on the list. Of course, Sony produces sensors for their cameras, so they get first dibs. And then it just goes down the line, whoever has it. So the X-Star is just, or Autel, wow. Autel has the buying power to do so, they're not going to buy a whole bunch of them and not be able to sell them, if that makes any sense. And then the next thing I learned, as far as all of you that have heard or seen or promoted something saying that Autel is going out of business, Autel Robotics is a division of the Autel company. Okay, it's a little piece, a little project for Autel. If you don't know what Autel is they make diagnostic tools for mechanics, things like that. Just search on anything other than Autel Robotics, and you'll see how many other things they actually make, and they are huge. So as far as Autel going out of business, not going to happen. Simply not going to happen. Autel Robotics, if it doesn't pan out, it's a business. They'll just shut that part down. But Autel, as far as the company goes, is not going anywhere. And Autel Robotics more than likely isn't going anywhere because they got a lot of cool stuff in the works. The EVO being the biggest, coolest, neatest thing that they've got that they've revealed. And if you guys can hear me, go ahead and throw a comment up there. That way I know at least a few of you. I see there's 5 of you out there. Let's see if we can't get a few more. Just go ahead and throw me a comment so I know this is getting through. So now if you're just showing up, thank you, sir. JR54, thanks for showing up. He's talking about the X-Star and where it's going for the future. Of course, it's no more production. Now, they might have a whole bunch made and they might ship them over here and sell them, but not in vast quantities, not in the amounts they were anymore. And don't get me wrong, the X-Star is perfect bird to do, a lot of things. If you watch anything on my channel, or a lot of other people that have an X-Star, love it. I have 2. I love it. I know there's better, but I also like when I call, I get a person to talk to on the phone to help me through whatever problem I'm having. So as far as support for the X-Star, they don't have a date. They didn't say anything as far as, we're not gonna support the X-Star from this date. They're gonna keep supporting you with your X-Star for who knows how long. Hopefully for the next year, maybe 1.5 to 2 years. But I don't have a date, so that's something I didn't find out. So don't rush to sell your X-Star just because you think you're going to get crap service if you have a problem with it. Because there's plenty of groups out here that are we're going to help each other out to make sure that we keep our X-Stars going for a good amount of time from here on out. But now, I had the opportunity when I was at CES to speak with Tim, Andrew, and Hongfei. And I'm sorry if I get your they're going to supply Kiwi Flyer. They are going to have the parts that they have had, so shells, props. There might be some cameras and things like that. None of the guys really gave me a definite on whether or not I could get motors, although you can put different motors, as long as you can solder some things together, you can put different motors in and the mounts are pretty much the same. There is going to come a point where they're going to dwindle down on the amount of shells that they're going to have, but that's hard to say. They might keep making the shells for replacements for X-Stars that are out there. Legs, props, of course, and other little bits and pieces, little damper things. I really didn't touch on that too much with them. They did say that shells, of course, were the biggest thing that they're going to keep as far as parts goes, but as far as like circuit boards or anything like that, you're probably not going to see anything. GPS units or anything like that, probably have to call them up and see if you can't get them to send you a scrap one or something like that. Buy a scrap X-Star and try to get some parts from it. But they are still going to support the X-Star. Okay, Kevin, good. I'm glad you're here. Yes, I'm going to keep my X-Star for as long as I possibly can until they can't fly anymore. You know how hard I am on mine. But thanks for watching, guys. Talking a little bit about the X-Star before I get into the stuff about the EVO. Trying to see how many more people we get here, because I'd rather field any questions while I sit here, because it's a whole lot easier than me trying to reply to questions on my phone when I'm out and about. Because I don't sit here in front of my computer all day, every day, waiting for comments to come through. But the EVO. I'm going to go ahead and get into the EVO. The units that they had at CES, there were a handful of them. I'd say there's probably 15, 20 of them there. 3 or 4 of them actually flew in their little thing that they had set up to test everything out. First production run, I guess, is going to have the plastic arms. And I had a couple of questions about, is it chintzy as far as the plastic, because they look kind of thin. No, it's not. It's actually real high quality plastic. It's very strong and actually, tweaked on them pretty good. I mean, if it drops out of the sky from 200 feet, it's gonna break. I mean, nothing like that. But bumping it off a wall or off some concrete or something like that, it's gonna survive. And the carbon fiber ones, yes. They have like pre-production carbon fiber arms, but they're trying to see if the cost, the increase in cost and the decrease in weight is worth it, if that makes sense, because it's more costly to produce the carbon fiber ones at this point until they have to make a whole bunch of them. So if you're a pre-order on the EVO at this point, I'm not going to guarantee that you're going to get plastic arms. You might end up getting carbon fiber, but that's hard to say. I don't know that. And a lot of the questions were, well, that's just a Mavic. It's very similar as far as like talk of DJI going to go after them. Floyd, I'll get to that here in a second. As far as it as being a Mavic clone, there's only so many ways that you can make a folding arm quad. And at CES, there were probably, there were so many other ones that were literally a copy of the Mavic. Literally. They looked exactly like the Mavic. There was a company there called AEE The only difference between their foldable quad and the Mavic was the arms were just a little bit bent, if that makes sense. They had a little bow in them. And they're not sued out of existence. They probably don't sell as many as DJI does. Excuse me. So, as far as it being them getting into any kind of litigation over, copying or anything like that, the arms fold out with the body. They don't come up from underneath. They all fold out. So there's enough of a difference, I'm sure, and I'm sure they had their legal people say, let's not get into a battle with them. It's similar, but there's only so many ways that you can make one of these. And if you saw any of the pictures of the side-by-side comparison, the EVO is a little smaller, not a whole lot smaller than the Mavic, but it is a lot heavier. Coming into CES, the first booth you come to when you came to that part was DJI, of course, and they've got all their stuff set up, and they've got all the stuff that they always had: the Mavics, the Sparks, the Inspire 2, which of course was Inspire 1, is no more, bye-bye. And then their Ronin stuff, and they even had a Matrice, or one of the bigger commercial quads or octocopters there. But nothing new from them at that point. No hints, no nothing. Spoke to them, tried to figure out whether or not they had anything else coming out. Nope. I will say that the Phantom 4, not the Pro, but the Phantom 4 more than likely is going to get shelved from them. They're going to stick with just the Advanced and the Pro version, I believe. I don't know. I wasn't really too interested in DJI, but the difference in weight between the Mavic and the EVO was, the Mavic, if any of you guys have one, you know how light they are. I don't have one. You know how light they are. They're just very tiny little things. I was assuming when I grabbed the EVO for the first time that it was going to be just as light, but there's some, I'm going to say, meat to it, and I was really surprised how heavy it was. It's almost as heavy as the X-Star. I mean, unbelievably, but it's a pretty heavy little piece of equipment. Floyd, that's kind of the comparison. And after speaking with the guys, basically what the EVO is just an X-Star stuffed into a smaller package with a few better parts, better processors, different camera stuff. He gave me all the technical mumbo jumbo, but I don't remember any of it. But as far as that goes, and it's hard to judge in flight while they had it in a building, flying in this thing. It was very steady. It didn't bebop around or anything like that. Of course, there's no wind inside, and that's kind of hard to tell, which, I'm sure there's going to be more videos of them coming out, flying outside to see how stable it is in the air. But very stable platform as far as it was hovering in there. Cambrian Pro version around 14 to 1500. That would be real DJI killer. Yeah, the 1-inch sensor camera, they had the production one that's there, that's going to have the 4K 60 12 megapixel camera on it. The one in the picture here right below me, that's the one with the 1-inch sensor. And again, like I was saying before, I know a lot of you guys didn't come in for the first few minutes of this live stream, but the reason why the 1-inch sensor camera didn't come out for the X-Star was because they couldn't get their hands on it. They couldn't get a deal going. Basically, they have to buy a whole bunch of them to get Sony to sell them to them. You have to make a minimum order of these things so that they could produce them, and they couldn't get the volume that they needed to get the camera because, Autel hasn't been as popular as other manufacturers, and that was the real killer for the 1-inch sensor camera. And unfortunately, they're not going to pursue trying to get those sensors so they can produce that camera. Unfortunately, it sucks for us because it would be great if we had a 1-inch sensor camera and, excuse me, and then some third party, and then mapping and all these other programs out there to fly these things automatically. That would be awesome, and that's something that they were pushing for. They were pushing big for. But you remember, Autel here in the United States, isn't very many people. Everybody from Autel was at CES, maybe short of 1 or 2 people there to answer the phones, but everybody else was there. That's their whole staff as far as here in the United States. So keep that in mind. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, all the top brass of Autel Robotics is over in China or Korea. Don't remember which. Those are the ones that are calling the shots. Those are the ones that are saying, you know, let's work on this, let's work on this, let's work on this. You know, they're calling the shots. So the guys here in the United States, they're just doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing as they're told as far as the company goes. So as far as like firmware updates, app updates, things like that, there's a team here and there's a team over there, and they're both trying to work together to try to figure out everything and get everything pushed out. Along with the firmware for the X-Star, because the firmware for the EVO is very, very similar. So the reason why it took so long for us to get our final released firmware was because it has to work with the EVO. But the EVO has to work with the X-Star. They're trying to take two things and make them work together. And I know I'm making a real bad explanation of the software part of this, because I really don't have any idea about what I wear. But I do know that there's not very many people here in the United States trying to make little repairs, little updates and things of that nature with the Starlink app. I know a lot of us, myself included, have been wanting the 99 waypoint thing open on offline, so you can create a map, so you can go and fly your missions and things like that, and then have all your devices sync in the app, so you can make one map and then it syncs to all your other devices, so you can see that. And Hongfei actually said that's going to be a fairly easy thing. He said he will mention it, and he said he'll try to get that in the works. He said the easier part of any updates is going to be on the Starlink app and the new Explorer app that's going to come out for the EVO. So we can, all of us with an X-Star, can look forward to some updates and even firmware updates from this point on. Because the reason why it took so long for us to get a better firmware for the X-Star was because most of their development team was working on the EVO and have been for the past year. So that kind of makes sense. It sucks for us, and we had to wait for so long, but that's the nature of the beast. They're trying to create a product that people are going to want to buy. Okay, which the EVO is one of those things, but they're going after the meat and potatoes of their market. Okay, not commercial pilots. They're going after those, those kids that want to get a cool shot of them riding their bike or riding their motorcycle, or those kind of things. Get pictures of whatnot. They threw in the mapping capability with that because there had been so many people ask about it. So many people asking about it. So many people wanting third party. And that's why they kind of integrated that with. I mean, the mapping in the beginning was just supposed to be that quick little drone you throw up in the air and get your pictures, which ended up being the Spark. So this new platform, as far as the EVO goes, is going to be one of those for third party and everything like that, and more development on down the road. So, but as far as I'll go back to the 1-inch camera on the EVO, it is something that they're really, really pushing hard for, to try to get a 1-inch camera so that they can have a version of 1-inch camera. No, it is not modular. So no, you're not going to be able to buy one with the original 12 megapixel camera and swap it over to the 1-inch camera. I even asked Hongfei if somebody was, fairly technical and take it apart and put the other camera on and put it back together. He said no, it's completely different hardware that supports the camera. So I am going to wait I am actually going to wait. I'm actually hoping, wink wink Autel, that I will get to test one. I'm hoping you'll send me one to test out and review, so that I can convey that all to you guys. I'm really hoping. But no, I'm not going to be on the bandwagon of the first production run, because I've got 2 here. It's winter time. I don't fly a whole bunch. I haven't had a lot of calls for that. Okay, Eagle will have a comment at some point. Yeah, they are going to push more for the carbon fiber arms, but they're trying to weigh out the cost. You know, it's all about profit, of course. Okay, if the arms cost an extra, you know, 20-30 cents per arm to produce the carbon fiber, that conveys over to the total cost of the drone, and if it puts it, you know, above that $1,000 price point that they're trying to hit, then you might not see it unless they figure out a way to make the arms really cheap, but at the quality that they want. This is one of the biggest things with Autel, and there are people out there that are naysayers because, you know, shells crack and people have problems, things like that. Okay, if everything was perfect, you know, it's not. I mean, I had a shell crack, but my shell cracked after I crashed mine, I don't know how many times. I mean, not just crack. I mean, like, hit the ground. My shell cracked, and now both of them that I've got, I do have a few little cracks starting, but I know what to do now. You put a little bit of epoxy and wrap them up with tape wrap the arms with tape to give me some more rigidity to the frame. But as far as quality goes, okay, the quality of the X-Star versus everything else out there, if you guys don't have anything else, you can tell it immediately. I mean, immediately. All the other manufacturers there, they had Unique, DJI, AEE, Wingsland. Oh, I can't even remember all the other ones, but a lot of them were copies, you know, and they're cheap, really cheap. And then there were other ones like the Evolve X Dynamics. If you haven't heard of that one, and I wish I had the pictures up so I could show you, but the X Dynamics is a full carbon fiber drone with a 30-minute flight time, and it is awesome. We're not being produced yet. Kind of a startup thing. One of the guys was from Unique. I don't really know the whole story, but it was very heavy, very well built, and I'll post some things on the forums with them, and there's a few other guys here that I've been sending pictures and stuff to while I was at CES that may have them. So, you know, if you guys have them, share them so everybody can see. But yeah, X Dynamics. I'm pretty sure it's X Dynamics. X Dynamics Evolve was the name of the quad. Yeah, it kind of pricey. They're in that $2,000 to $3,000 range is where they were shooting for. But there were several companies there that knew that DJI was doing away with the Inspire 1, and there's going to be a hole that needs to be filled with the Inspire 1 being gone. And I'm saying, if you're in the market for an Inspire 1, you might want to start watching pricing and get you one. And I think it's in April they're going to stop supporting the Inspire 1. But still, it fills that gap between, you know, quads like the Phantom 4, the X-Star, I'm not even going to say Unique, because, and Unique is just not, I didn't really feel it with them. The Unique H Plus, here's my conversation with the people at Unique. I am very curious about the 520. Very curious about the 520 with its modular camera, which is a great idea. I hope Autel goes back to that. The modular camera, so you can swap it, hot swappable. The only thing that they kind of took offense to it, and I said, why is this not just an orange H? And of course they said, no, this is completely different. You know, it shares the same shell, but everything inside is a bit different. But then they come out with the H Plus, and it uses the camera from the 520. So, in my mind, Unique says, okay, yeah, we see a hole coming with the Inspire going away, and everybody not wanting to spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for Inspire 2. We need that $2,000 range drone for commercial inspections and things like that, because there's really not a whole lot of other choices. I mean, there is choices, but without like apps like, you know, Pix 4D and Drone Deploy and things of that nature. Right. But the H Plus is the same size as an H, so it has the same length arms and the same props. And I might be wrong, but that's what it. Yeah, it's the 520. I'm sure it's just an orange H with a little longer arms and bigger props and a couple different cameras. Because I asked about the H Plus and said, okay, well, you've got the C50, C90, and the thermal camera for this, because those could be used on the H Plus. Well, I kind of got a little bit of a runaround, so you take from there. You take from that what you will. More than likely, yeah, that's what it wouldn't make any sense to have two production runs of the same size, same shell drone, one with longer arms, one with shorter arms, and have everything inside of it be different. Doesn't make any sense. In a manufacturing point, doesn't make any sense. None. Why would they make two different styles of drones and have two different innards for either one? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't. And that's my take. Now, the data pilot for Unique is awesome. And it does all the front end stuff. I assumed that data pilot for Unique did the front end and the back end. So you take your pictures for your mapping or whatever it might be, and it does everything right there at the controller. No, it does the autonomous flight stuff. That's all it does. Takes your pictures, you take the pictures off, put it into Drone Deploy or Pix 4D, and have it produce whatever map that you need. So I thought that Data Pilot was a full suite of software that came with the drone, so it's not. So if you guys are in the same spot, and I may have just misunderstood how it was explained to me before. And Unique had their little FPV wing drone there, which was kind of neat, but I don't know, $600 for something you could probably get from a hobby shop for, I don't know, $100, $200 maybe. That just seemed kind of crazy. And read this. Hey, Squappy, glad you made it, bud. Yeah, 600 is too much for what that guy does. If you guys don't have any idea about any fixed wing stuff, I used to do fixed wing back in the day. We didn't have FPV stuff, but you know, you could go to the hobby store with $40 and walk out with a nice plane and fly it for, you know, 2 or 3 weeks till you destroyed it. You can still do the same thing, but you can put a camera and a transmitter on it and get one of those cheapy FPV headsets, you know, the $60 FPV headsets, and you got the exact same thing for a couple $100 in my mind's eye. Yeah. And Parrot was there too. Or were they? Can't honestly remember. I remember seeing a few Parrots there, but it might have been that they had like this roundup thing in the center where every manufacturer had something there. There were so many companies there selling drones, so many. I couldn't believe how many there were. There was one, and I can't remember the name, but a little, it's a racing quad. Real small little guy, but real tough. And they were going to be in that, you know, I think $500 or $600 range for this thing. And it was good for beginners all the way up to advanced drone racers and those things. I think he said top speed on this little guy was 60 miles an hour when you really got into it, which is kind of neat. And then all the other Chinese manufacturers there. And that brings me to another point that I don't think anybody else thinks about as far as all this stuff that we buy, okay? Everything at CES, almost everything. I didn't find any of the booths that I went by, and I didn't do the entire show. It's just too much. There's too many people. You can't see everything unless you're going to go every stinking day. But why go to that when you're in Vegas? I mean, there's gambling and liquor, but yeah. Everything there is produced in Korea or in China or in Japan. Nothing here. Almost nothing here. So, you know, what they're dealing with over there, competing for resources to make all this stuff, is really amazing. I mean, really amazing. Which is the whole problem with the 1-inch sensor camera. Everything uses a Sony sensor. Everything. Well, not everything, but there's a lot of them. Unless somebody can say, I want this many, you know, Sony's going to be like, nah, we got somebody that's going to buy more than you. And it's just good business as far as that goes. Not for us, the end user, but that's kind of the reason why you don't see a lot more things with bigger sensors. But there's a lot of them coming. A lot coming. And if any of you guys are coming in late, after this is done, go back through and you'll see some more explanations on things of that nature. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can add. All right, I'm going to add a screen to this. Let's see, window capture. Add this to the screen. And it's not going to let me. And it was working a second ago, but it's not going to let me do it. Yeah, exactly, Squabby. That's exactly. All these other manufacturers out there, all these camera manufacturers that are going after for GoPros, for little cheapy point and shoots, you know, they all want that Sony sensor because they want to be able to say, I've got that Sony sensor. And that's the hardest part to it. That's what they're up against, trying to compete with all these that are buying a whole bunch of them, because even Shoot the little action cam that I've got has a Sony sensor in it, and I don't know where it's at, but yeah, that camera was 40 bucks. Does just what a GoPro does, exactly the same as what a GoPro does, and it was 1/10 the cost of a GoPro. So yeah, get back to the EVO. I got a little bit out of there with that. The obstacle avoidance too is great. Yep. Yeah, that's one of the things. One of the things that I was able to speak with Andrew about the X-Star and the camera, excuse me, was even though it's not a 1-inch sensor camera or anything like that, apparently something with the processing of the image in the X-Star seems to do so much better of a job, because if you have one and you've seen pictures from other quads, even a Phantom 4, and people will argue this, the videos on a Phantom 4 are much better. Okay, hands down. The X-Star is pretty good. The Unique's pretty good. I mean, they're all pretty good in that sense. But the pictures that you can get from the X-Star, just the still images from the X-Star, there's just something so much better about it. And every other one of the manufacturers, Unique, DJI, Wingsland, GDU, they all said yes, there is something that they figured out a little bit different with that smaller sensor that makes the pictures just awesome, just awesome. Even though you don't have full control over the camera, which a lot of people will argue that, but that's all per the individual. There's something better about the X-Star and its image. And going forward with the EVO and its 12 megapixel camera, and apparently it has a better processor for the image, so the images that they were displaying that were taken by the EVO at CES were great. Were just as good as anything I've seen out of anything else, and the video as well. Even if you saw some of the promo videos before CES, you know them promoting the X-Star, that one last little kick to probably get rid of what they have in the warehouse. Some of that footage was taken with an EVO. So they did not have a price listed for the EVO. They're saying sub $1,000 for the EVO. So I would say probably $99, $99, $99. That's below $1,000. That's where they're at. The 1-inch sensor camera, if, like I said before, if they get enough interest, or they can get the order in for the sensors, those will probably fall in the $1,200 to $1,300 mark, maybe a little bit more. Really depends. Yeah, the Mavic's price range. That's the market they're going for. That's what they're shooting for. And more than likely, I would assume that they'll have a little handheld, like a Spark drone. There were so many of those there, of that small, real small drone with the 13-15 minute flight time with a 1080p camera. Who's got a 1-inch sensor for $1,300? I mean, that'd be a Phantom 4 now. You can find them for $1,300. I don't know about new. Okay, well, I'm going to move on here a little bit. Let me bring this picture up so you guys can see a little bit better. Blow this out a little bit. It is a 3-axis gimbal on the EVO. It does have little HDMI on the controller. Oh, I had some pictures of that, and I don't know if it actually does. Let me go back and look. I can't see from this stupid thing. You move over here out of the way. Photos, and again, I apologize. I should have been a little bit more, but this was a whole lot easier than me shooting a video and then editing and uploading, and then having to answer all these questions after the fact. Nope, I don't have them available to me at this point on this computer. I'll shrink that down there a little bit more. If you saw any of the other pictures, if you're a part of any of the other groups, the Autel X-Star owners group or the Autel EVO owners group, there's a group now. The micro SD card fits in the back lower portion of the EVO. The very back of the EVO, and you may have seen pictures right below the IR sensors, is a port for a USB, micro USB, a little LED indicator, and a switch. And I asked Hongfei about the little switch because it's a switch between Wi-Fi and RC. Hongfei kind of gave me a runaround on that little switch. He said it might not make it to the final production run, but the quads that they had there, the EVOs that they had there, looked too good not to be their final production run. So basically, there's a switch inside the EVO that will allow you to control it via Wi-Fi through your smartphone, or the RC controller itself. And he didn't give me that a definite, but kind of winked and nodded. Yeah, you know, that's great. So you won't need the controller if you want to stick the thing in your pocket and go. You might be able to do it with the app. And then as far as the talk with their FCC, them waiting for any approvals from the government, they've got them all. They've got them all. Basically, they're waiting on the software with the new app and everything like that to get buttoned up, to get everything, you know, everything streamlined before they come out. And yeah, I saw what's his name, Bo Lawrence, the FPV guy. I was able to talk to him. I was able to talk with, I think his name is Patrick, with the Roswell flight test crew. They were there. Real nice guys. Real nice guys. Mavic has a Wi-Fi feature. I didn't know. I didn't even know that they had the Mavic had that feature. Where else am I going with this? And again, guys, I apologize. I'm just kind of scatterbrained as far as this goes. If you've seen the pictures on the Autel robotics EVO group, or yeah, the EVO group, there are a few pictures there. The battery compartment, the pictures of the SD card slot, and the little thing in the back. And again, I apologize that I didn't have that stuff ready to go and have up here so you guys can see it. The app, as far as that goes, looks pretty good. You could tell it wasn't perfect, so that's more than likely what they're waiting for. Yeah, that's if you've seen any of the pictures, the props on it, they have that little turn up like the Master Airscrew props. It makes it pretty quiet. It is very quiet in the air, which was surprising to me. But as far as the controller is concerned, and I've been looking for a picture here to see if I can grab it and show you. Very small. It is a lot heavier than it looks. The antennas are don't get to cranking on them too much, because I'm almost certain they would break. The the holder for a phone, it will not hold a tablet. It's only going to hold a phone. That's what they're going after. That's the market they're going after. How do I bounce this? Hold on, guys. I've got some troublemakers in here. All right. Restrictions, very good question. Um, there should be none. As far as height and distance, as of course they're promoting the 7 kilometers or 4 miles. Yeah. Yeah, we touched on the ability to use goggles. I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to use goggles with the controller. The screen on the controller, while it's pretty small, it's pretty clear. It's only a 720p, I believe, as far as the screen goes, and it's not touchscreen. It's not a little touchscreen. You have to control everything with the little triggers and dials and things on top of it. But yeah, it's a pretty good controller. And I apologize, guys. We got somebody in here. Yeah, and I don't know how to bounce people, so there's that. But yeah, the controller should be pretty good. I apologize, guys. I'm trying to do 2 or 3 different things in here. But yeah, it kind of looks like the controller with the little arms that fold down on the bottom. It looks like those should open up to hold something bigger. It may have been intended to be that way, and they decided to change it at the last minute for whatever reason. But yeah, the only thing you can put a device in is that little clamp that they put on top, and it will only hold a phone, 6-inch diagonal phone. So it'll do some, not the huge ones, but like a great big note or anything like that, but any regular cell phone that's out there now. And how do I? There we go. There we go. Yeah, again, I apologize, guys. Just trying to figure out how to use this. I should know more than that. But I'll cover myself up with a picture of the EVO, because you don't want to look at me, you want to look at it. The props are quick release. As far as that goes, you just push down and turn, they pop right off. Easy peasy, just like a lot of the other new ones. In this picture here, you can see how the arms fold out. They fold straight out from the drone. You do the front arms first and the back arms second, and then reverse that to fold it back up. And then I wish they had made the legs, the landing legs, foldable in some fashion, so that you could tighten it up a little bit more. And I didn't see any like gimbal holder guard thing shell like the Mavic. I don't know what they have as far as holding that guy down. You turn off the avoidance system. I believe they said you could. In case you wanted to do anything to get closer, because I believe it starts to activate at around 15 feet like all the rest of them. Yeah, duct tape. I'm wondering where Brad is. I'm surprised he's not here. Yeah. Although I don't believe it had any, like, it only had front and back. I don't believe it had any side. I think it was only front, back, and downward cameras. I'm sure it's not warm enough to be flying, because it's only 1 degree here right now. Yeah. Yeah, coming from Las Vegas, where it was 65 degrees and sunny in Vegas, to flew, what was it, Friday afternoon, to come back. It got diverted to Philadelphia, or not Philadelphia, but Indianapolis, because it was snowing in Columbus, where I was flying back into. And Southwest's idea was, hey, we'll fly to Atlanta and then to Columbus a day later. Oh, nice, 60 and sunny. Let me go and shrink this guy down here. Shrink it down a little bit more. There we go. That's better. 3D mapping, yes, with the new app. If you've seen any of the pictures or anything like that, they have got a few people with a software development, so that it can be done with the EVO. They had a couple of examples there of doing a business complex, and it looked like it was just as good as anything else. Now, I didn't get to do any hands-on with that part of it, but they had a gentleman there from their division in Germany that was talking about the Kestrel and the other ground station and the other controller that they had there. If you've seen the pictures, the one with the great big screen on it, they said they were toying with the idea of making that controller compatible with the EVO, the Kestrel, and maybe even the X-Star. Maybe. But again, even though the X-Star is kaput from here on out, the software that they're using for this new stuff is very similar. So we might see more cool stuff even for the X-Star from here on out. That's, again, Gareth, that's subjective. It really just depends. With my X-Star, I've done some really good maps and really crappy ones. I believe they are removable. The landing feet on it, I believe they are. I would have to go back to one of my pictures. Let's see if I can find one on the EVO group to look at the base of that guy, and there may not be one. I can't find a picture. I believe the feet are removable though. Right. I mean, I hope they would have thought that far ahead, but again, I will say, top of the controller are, of course, just like the X-Star, you have your EV roller that's multifunction, of course, and a little button beneath that, and then your camera and your video buttons on either side. On the other side on the top is going to be your angle, your pitch of your camera. So basically the same layout, give or take, of the X-Star and every other drone out there as far as the controls are going. There are going to be two buttons on the back. If you've seen any pictures that say A and B, that'll be programmable for different things, I believe. The go home, the pause. That's what I was looking for. HDMI out on the controller. I don't think there was, but I could be wrong. I don't believe there was. Or no, as a matter of fact, I tried to open the little port on the bottom of the controller, and I wasn't able to get it open, and I didn't want to break it. I don't think I could have, but I didn't want to break one of their things. Okay, William knew there isn't on it. I believe there were a few people that asked if it was, but at this point I don't think it was in there. But again, if you're using a Android device, and this is my little workaround for stuff like that to have an HDMI out, is just use a Chromecast and cast the screen of your device. Does pretty much the same thing as having an HDMI out but being wireless. And I've actually done that with my Pixel a few times, and it works actually quite well. Not so well on older devices. The tablet that I use for my X-Star, my Tab A, has kind of a hard time. Yes. That was one of the other big things that we talked about. Talking with Andrew and talking about battery longevity and things of that nature. And I don't know if Heath is here, but we've been talking about how to keep these batteries going and going and going and going. Because, of course, you know, with the X-Star gone, they're not going to produce any more batteries. They're going to sell what they have, what's left, and then that's it. They're done. Oh, I should have known that. Sorry, Bubba. But as far as the batteries go for the X-Star, yeah, once they get to the end, they will be able to be rebuildable. So you can take it to, like, what's it called? Batteries Plus, that advertise that they rebuild batteries, and they might be able to do that. Another thing, and Heath, since you're here, since I know it's you now, and I should have made that connection, but, you know, I'm getting old. I did ask Hongfei about disconnecting the board in the batteries and then reconnecting and going from there. And he said more than likely that's probably the ticket to getting the capacity back. Because I asked him, I told him about our conversations about the X-Star batteries and the one that I've got that's so, you know, down to like 2300, 2200, 2300 milliamp hours. And he said yes, more than, he's like, I'm not going to confirm it, but yes, a workaround somewhat. He goes, but him and Andrew were very interested in, you know, what you're doing, of course, and what we're doing to try to help everybody else out there. So yes, but for most of us that's not too bad. But that also opens up a, you know, another little market for those of us that have those kind of abilities, if that makes sense. Rebuilding batteries. Yeah, that's what the a lot of the guys that I've talked to while I was there about batteries and about the capacity going down, as long as the battery's not swelled up. Let me move this picture out of the way again so I can see myself, even though I know you guys don't want to look at my face. But about the battery being puffed up, if your battery puffs up, you know, a little bit's not bad. But if they really start getting swelled up and it gets hard to put in the drone, just stop using them, because you're asking to burn your house down. And just get that out of the way. But if they're not swelled up and the cells aren't like wackadoodle out of balance, then you should be able to bring them back. Because the problem with it showing, you know, the one battery that I have that's only like 2300 milliamp hours, you know, that's what the software, that's what the hardware in the battery is telling the bird that's what it has. So unplugging it, plugging it back in, or unplugging the board, soldering, desoldering, and all that good stuff should bring it back to a useful capacity. Now, when I do that, and hopefully I'm smart enough to film it all, and I should, because that would be really good for everybody, but take the battery apart, desolder it, put it back together, then stick it on the charger and see what happens. If it starts to swell up and it starts trying to put too much energy back in the thing before it blows up, because if you've ever seen a LiPo that's overcharged, I don't want a situation like that. But I'd also rather do it with one of my old batteries and show you guys what not to do than just say, yeah, all you got to do is desolder this and then you're good, man. Plug it in, leave it. Never do that. Never do that. Never do that. I almost plugged it under the ground. Yep. But for those of you that are here that have an X-Star and aren't into the whole working on the thing yourself, just keep an eye on the groups. You know, there's another group that a few of us are a part of that are working together to produce documents for things of that nature. Well, I'm going to say if any of you guys here that are part of that group, I haven't really helped out a whole lot, but I've been kind of busy. You know, I only learned about it just before I went to CES. Was at CES, swimming through people, literally swimming through people. Okay, bud. Thanks for coming. Yes. Yeah, Elijah. There you go. And again, sorry I haven't really put too much more out there. It's been kind of hectic getting home, trying to get through all the pictures and stuff like that. But come on, guys, you got to have more questions about the EVO. I know there's a lot of. I talked to Tim, Andrew, and Hongfei for probably an hour and a half, about an hour between each, with Tim and Andrew, and then Hongfei, probably half an hour, good half an hour, 45 minutes that I spoke to him. Yes, Elijah, and they didn't confirm, but the SDK that was released for the EVO may or may not work for the XSP. Basically, the differences between the XSP and the EVO is the EVOs just have a little bit better processing power. So the last firmware update that we got for the X-Star was the reason why it took so long for us to get that, and why we have like the wacky little with the camera. If you guys are, it was being designed for the EVO, but also to work for the X-Star, because the EVO basically is just a smaller X-Star, just an X-Star crammed into a smaller package with a better processor. If that makes sense. Yes, more than likely that's exactly what it is. Yes, I saw quite a few. They had the thing in the air the whole time I was there, the 2 days that I was there, only to take a break for guys to go and squirt and get something to eat. I don't know why that hid that. No, not the same motors. Smaller ones, brushless, of course. I don't know what brands, but as far as that goes. Firmware, I'm just going through your guys' comments. All future aircraft. Yes, you saw flying as your first impression is flight characteristics. Okay, back to the flight characteristics. It seemed to be extremely stable. It was very quiet in the air. But again, there was a lot going on there. While you couldn't hear it flying when you walked up to the booth, but once you got to there, you could definitely hear that it was in the air. Not as much as some of the other big ones. There were some there. There were some massive quads there that people were flying in these little cages, and those were very, very loud. So ZX 2112, 81, 4. No, the motors are actually smaller than the XSP. Yeah, but you know, just like everything else, you know, they figure out ways to make things smaller, more powerful. They're shorter, but no, they don't have the same diameter as the XSP. they're a little bit smaller. But I didn't get into the technical specs of the motor or anything like that. Yes, that was the one thing that I did notice inside the motors that you could see in the top, that they look like they were pretty tight. And that's one of the things, that these things that they had sitting there, the picture that you have sitting, they had the 1-inch sensor, the 360 camera, and then a whole bunch of the other ones. They didn't look like they were pre-production models. They looked like they're ready to go. The case. That's the one thing that I am not like woo about. It's a very dense foam, just like the Phantoms. As far as that goes, there's no outside plastic, but it's a very dense foam. I mean, it's not like styrofoam you're just going to be able to flake away. But I was kind of hoping for something that would be clad in plastic like the X-Star. But it's pretty tough, and it holds everything in there pretty well. It holds the EVO, the controller, and maybe 1 or 2 batteries. I think maybe 2 batteries in there, and with a yeah, it's pretty small. It's about the size of an old lunchbox, if you remember the old style lunchboxes. Yeah, that's the only thing. And I don't remember if it was, and again, you know, all the pictures that I got on my wife's computer, I don't know why in the world I transferred, but I think 2 batteries can put in there, so that would be 1 in the bird and 2 in the bottom. Half an hour on the EVO, 30 minutes. Okay, that's best case scenario. That would be including any ground time, you know, turning it on, getting things set up, everything like that. So a solid 20, 25, 27 minutes in the air is what they're claiming, with a 3-cell battery. It's pretty neat. Pretty neat. And still has a 1 hour charge time for that. I asked about like a multi-battery charger, but they're still going to have their proprietary. Yeah, I would say a healthy 25 minutes, solid 25 minutes. I mean, they said 25 minutes on the X-Star, 25 to 27 minutes on the X-Star, but you all know that if you get 18 minutes of really good flight, then, you know, you're doing pretty good. 20 minutes at best. The best I've ever seen was with master air screw props, about 22 minutes in the air on my best battery. They did not have any of the chargers in view. They had it at their little podium where they were charging the batteries to do their demonstration flights. But it looked similar to like the Mavic. Similar type charger, little brick and little plug-in thing. But a smart charger again. They didn't know whether or not they were going to have like a multi-battery charger with the one thing that Andrew said, with a half an hour flight time, you know, and if you have a couple of batteries, why would you want to charge multiple batteries? And I said, why in the world would I have, you know, 7 batteries for my X-Star? I mean, come on, you know, if you gotta get it done, you gotta get it done. And we'll go back to the software a little bit. The mapping software that they're going to have on there, yes, it's going to, you know, if you're flying something huge and you got to do a battery swap, it will pause the mission, come back to you. Yeah, it'll come back to you, and you can swap the battery out and then continue on with the mission, instead of, you know, with the X-Star now, you stop, you know, take the battery out, you do a couple of changes to your mission, and then you get it back up in the air, because it won't just continue on with its mission after you swap a battery. Yeah, but Elijah, you can do mapping with your X-Star now. Just look for the videos. Just look for the videos. It can be done. You can even do it with Pix 4D. Yeah, it would make it easier. And the guys there, you know, all three of them I spoke to, I'm like, dude, we really got to have something third party so I can do some mapping. And they like, well, we know, you know. But the thing about it is that DJI and Parrot are the only two that have like third party, and there were so many others there. And everybody I spoke to now, Unique has their own mapping program. So, and they're supposedly releasing an SDK so that they can get more third party in there as well. But all the others, Walkera, Wingsland, shoot, what are some of the other ones that were there? I'm drawing a blank. Walkera, Wingsland. Shoot, what's some of the other big ones that were there? Daggone it, drawing a blank. Xiaomi, yeah. None of them, even the new X, well, what did I say that was earlier? I can't remember. It was the Explorer drone. There weren't too many of them that had any third party, so it was mainly just DJI and Parrot. Actually, I believe the GPS speeds were the 20 meters a second, so about 40 miles an hour. I'm pretty sure. And there were different flight modes, but my focus wasn't solely on the EVO as far as what we were discussing there. It was more about the X-Star, of course. But yeah, but yes, the X Dynamics. That's the one I was trying to remember. Their drone, and they had a couple, 2 or 3. They had a micro, little, you know, stick in your pocket drone. They had this large one that was bigger than the X-Star, about twice the size of the X-Star, made out of carbon fiber, very heavy. 30-minute flight time. They said it had a Lumix camera on it. Yes, the Evolve, yes. But it looked like it was going to be a substantial thing. They haven't released it yet. I guess this is just a brand new company. I think they make more of the really large hexacopters and octocopters and things of that nature. Yes, it was 2,500. They're saying they're trying to hit that price point with their standard 4K camera, not with the one with the interchangeable lenses like the Inspires with the what's the X5 camera, X7 camera, whatever it is. But they have one there, but then they had a gigantic one there too. Yeah. And then all the other little ones. One of the surprising ones were the Walkera Voyager. Yeah, the controller on that one was good too. The Walkera Voyager was a pretty sweet drone, and that one's getting, you know, 25, 27-minute flight times, and it's pretty big too. They had one there with a 45-minute flight time, and then they had a gas-powered one. I don't remember if it was an octocopter or yeah, but it was a gas-powered quad that had like a 2-hour flight time, something like that. That was something else at the Walkera booth. And then the Walkera Vitus, again, foldable drone, which is the same as the Mavic, but not the same. It's a lot like the EVO, even though it came out before the EVO. The way the arms fold out and everything like that. Same kind of flight time, same kind of everything, but no third party. No third party. The controller was on the X Dynamics on the Evolve. That had 2 screens on it, and it showed you pretty much everything. Pretty much everything. What's this? Let me see if I can. Nope. Thought I had that one set up. You know that I assumed the same thing in the Vitus. but the ones they had there were put together pretty well. I mean, I was surprised. I've seen some of the videos about the Vitus and people saying that the quality wasn't there, but they were on par. I mean, it was on par with any DJI or Autel. Yeah. And let me see if I can get to this again. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you guys anything. Yeah, I was. The Vitus, the Voyager, the build quality on them was very, very good. A lot better than I thought they were going to be. And I've seen the Voyager, what do they call it? Voyager 1, 2, and 3 or something like that on the Walkera stuff. I've seen them before, and these ones that they had at the show were just head and shoulders better than the others. And remember, for every good one, there is a copy of a very bad one. The company AEE, they had some pretty neat things there. They had some pretty big drones, but the quality just wasn't, you could tell. I mean, you could just tell the difference. Yeah, it is, but it isn't though. You know, it's got the fixed arms and the raisable legs instead of it being, you know, the same thing. They were going after the same form factor as far as that goes, but yeah, which I see, you know, I see your point, but just real surprised about the quality of those. And then what were some of the other good ones? GDU, the GDU Bird. If you guys haven't heard of that before, I thought that GDU would be one that wasn't very good at all, but I was very surprised about how good the GDU was. Very surprised. I thought the way that it folds, it's a big drone. I was really surprised about how well made it was. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to see if I can't get to the pictures on my wife's computer if she's out there on it. Yes. Can't get to it. I tried. I was trying to get to those pictures because I decided instead of letting my phone just keep everything backed up in one easy to get to place, I decided to swap it over to a thumb drive and a computer while I was out there. Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to build one yet. Don't get a whole lot of time to do stuff like that, but one of these days I'm going to build one. Some of the other stuff there, the Power Vision, if you guys haven't heard of that, I don't remember if that's the name of the company or not, but the Power Vision Hawkeye or something like that. Very, very, very big drone. And somebody just asked, if you just joined, no, I am not at all disappointed with the EVO. The EVO looks like to be Autel's, I think it's going to be a home run for them. I think it's going to be a home run. And they're tackling it the right way. Okay, a lot of people are down on Autel for not communicating very well as far as what their plans are and this, that, and the other thing, but they got to be tight-lipped, of course, you know. But everything that they're making is very, very high quality. That was one of the things that me and Hong Fei spoke of, was the owner wants the highest possible quality they can get for the price they're going for, and they're they're hitting it. They're getting it. The weight of the EVO, just the build quality, the fit and finish of the whole thing. You know, the ones that they had there at the show, you know, there were, you know, thousands upon thousands of people had been touching and moving and flipping and flopping and doing all this kind of stuff. And they were holding up very well to all of that torture. You know, the one I have in the picture there below is folded up. Everybody's walking up, grabbing it, picking it up, folding out the arms, you know, flipping it over and doing all this kind of stuff, folding it back up, sitting it back on the desk. And everybody that walked by, just about, that grabbed it, did that. So it's pretty high quality drone. You know, and I'm going to say this, is that the platform really doesn't matter. I mean, it's good that the platform, like the EVO, like the X-Star, is very good build quality, but the software that runs it is the most important thing. I think they figured that out, and they've thrown a whole bunch of people in the development side of software to do what needs to be done with these things. So, yeah. Okay, thanks for coming, Bubba. EVO weight, I don't remember exactly what the weight is. It's a little lighter than the X-Star. So I remember them talking about the weight of it and how many grams it was, but yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was saying around 800 grams. So the X-Star might be done. Yeah, definitely heavier than the Maverick. But as far as it goes, it's not, while they're going for a price point of below the Mavic to try to win market share with a lower price, they're not skimping on anything. One of the only things they may skimp on would be the carbon fiber, which is just a pure cost standpoint, not because they don't want to put out a quality thing. The ones they had there with the plastic arms were very, very well built. The benefit to the carbon fibers would be they'd be a little bit stronger, but they cost more to produce. So that's their side. That's what they're thinking of. You know, we might all say, we got to have carbon fiber, we'll pay whatever, but they're going after average Joe, everyday consumer that just wants a drone to go out and take pictures of birds or, you know, whatever. Go after the younger generation with a foldable drone. Eyes on that. The 1-inch sensor. Okay, Elijah, since you came in late, I will go back over the camera issues with the X-Star that may or may not convey to the EVO. Okay, the reason why they did not release the FLIR camera and the 1-inch camera. The FLIR camera first. They didn't release the FLIR camera because FLIR has a bad problem, or the habit of changing something in their camera that changes how the camera communicates with software, and they'd have to revamp something. And plus, they didn't think that somebody was going to buy an $800 drone and put a $1,500 thermal camera on it, $1,500 plus thermal camera on their drone. And then every change in the FLIR Duo camera meant they had to change the software or something within the bird, and it just wasn't going to pan out for them. Plain and simply, it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to be a profitable endeavor for Autel. That's why they didn't release it, and that's more because the way that FLIR does what they do with their cameras and how they change things very, very often, which makes a lot of sense. The 1-inch sensor camera for the EVO and for the X-Star, they didn't release the 1-inch sensor camera for the X-Star purely because they could not place an order large enough to put them in the running to get the Sony sensor. Plain and simple. They couldn't buy enough of them. They didn't want to buy more than what they were going to sell, and they didn't want to overcommit to something, if that makes sense. You know, that's why they didn't release the 1-inch sensor because it was so hard to get that 1-inch sensor, because everybody else in the world is after that sensor for their camera, for their drone, for their whatever it might be. It's going to be the same challenge with the EVO. So the first run is going to have the 12 megapixel camera, the smaller sensor. No, you're not going to be able to swap the 1-inch sensor. If they release a 1-inch sensor camera, you're not going to be able to swap it with the one. If you purchase an EVO with the 12 megapixel, you're not going to be able to swap it. Different processor. So yeah, it's all about the volume of the sensors that they can purchase to produce them. Now the ones that they had there looked very polished. I mean, the 1-inch sensor cameras they had there, it looked like they've got it all figured out. The manufacturing, there wasn't anything herky-jerky about any parts of them. So while they say there might be only a handful of them there, they probably had enough sensors to produce quite a few of them for testing and things of that nature. So time will tell. They really want to have the 1-inch sensor, but again, if they can't go to Sony and say, hey, I need 100,000 of these, if they go and say, hey, we want 20,000, Sony's going to be like, we got this other company over here that's going to buy 500,000 of them. What? That's nothing. We'll put you on the back burner. No, those were not flying. Would they? Yes, I'm quite sure they would. I actually tried to get one to fly. The one with the 360 camera did not have any props on it, but the controller was there. So yeah, and the 360 prototype, they all asked me what my take was on it, as far as having a 360 camera on it. I said, well, having a drone specifically for a 360 camera, not my cup of tea. I wouldn't think that they would, as far as in the commercial sense, I don't think they would sell a whole bunch of them because it's a 360 camera, and that's a very narrow use case. And plus, if you have an X-Star and you have a 360 camera, stick that thing to the top of it and off you go. Yeah, the 1-inch sensor is one of the biggest questions for that. They definitely are pushing to get it. The standard ND filters, the ones that all of you probably have for your X-Star, it looks like the 1-inch sensor camera that they will fit. Andrew thought that the pitch of the threads was a little different, a little bit finer, but you could probably get it on there more than likely. The 12 megapixel camera, no, you'll have to purchase additional filters when they release them. Yes, on the 12 megapixel camera. The 1-inch camera sensors that they had there was about the same size as the camera on the X-Star now. Maybe slightly smaller, but I'm pretty sure it was about the same size. And how long did we go? Whew, hour and a half. Wow. We got any more questions? People are starting to dwindle away here. Elijah, if you've got any more. William, if you do. If anybody else here is sitting on the sidelines. Let's see, I follow a ton of stuff from County Artificial Group too. Is wondering more about what the staff there at CES might have said. Different folks evidently heard different things. Elijah, yes, we talked about a significant amount of everything. While they would not tell me right offhand if there was more that they were going to release, they also didn't say no. So, no, I have not done a pre-order EVO yet. I'm hoping I'll be a tester, a reviewer, and plus I have 2 X-Stars. Yeah. I can let a lot of you guys test them out if I don't get a tester before I figure out whether or not I need one. Because I'm in a position right now that I need to have something that can do more mapping, better mapping, faster. So I'm leaning more towards an Inspire 1, Phantom 4. Not a unique, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I won't make any kind of purchase until, of course, the weather breaks, because flying in the cold, you can do it, but unless I have somebody that absolutely needs something, and nobody wants to get a map of their snowy property, you know. And as far as the over promising, Elijah, I will touch on that, because I did talk to them, like, why in the world are you guys promoting something you weren't going to sell? The communication between China and the United States is good as far as development, and they really did fully intend on releasing a 1-inch sensor and the FLIR camera. They really did. But the people in China that couldn't make the deals that they needed to make to get that stuff produced didn't communicate the fact they needed to stop advertising for that stuff. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So, and every company has communication problems. So, while I get it, yeah, and that's why I bought my X-Stars too, was for the additional cameras, hoping for the next best thing. But in their words, the X-Star turned out to be a dead end for them. While it sold okay, you know, and everything that they brought, you know, at last year's CES with the foldable landing gear, the sensors, and the other drones that they had there, basically they just had to scrap most of it and go back to the drawing board to really figure out something that really got everybody's attention, and they did it with the EVO. This is going to get them a lot of attention. Yeah, but again, I mean, remember, Autel is a very large company. Not Autel Robotics, but Autel, the parent company. So, any of you guys that have heard or said, or you know, anything about Autel going out of business, nah, it's not going to happen. You know, they're going to keep producing. They've got a full staff in Germany that's developing the Kestrel. You know, and the only thing that's preventing the Kestrel from being sold, and well, I'm pretty sure you can buy them here in the United States, but you have to order them from, is the FAA requirements for that guy. They're looking for licensing and approvals for various things, but yeah. And that big controller again that they had there, you know, the hint was made that, you know, you could use that for the EVO, for possibly the X-Star. Again, the possibility of the X-Star. One of the other big things that I spoke with them about was, you know, if the X-Star is done, is there any inside stuff that, you know, us as the community of users and tinkerers, you know, can we get our hands on some of the software so that we can make changes and things of that nature? And that, you know, could be a possibility. I don't know anything about coding or anything like that, programming or anything like that, but I'm sure there's those of you out there that do. That would be like, great, yeah, I'll take, you know, let's give it a shot. So, but we'll see what's coming. We'll see what's coming with the SDK release for the EVO, and the, you know, not said specifically like, oh yeah, this whatever happens on the EVO will you know, you can be used on the X-Star. That wasn't said, but it was implied, and none of them will officially say that, because again, the EVO is just a shrunken down X-Star with a little bit different processor. We're going to see what's been on EVO. Yes, actually, William. The difference between the ones that they were flying there at CES and the ones that they had on display, while they were all operational, I was able to turn on some of the controllers for the ones that they had on display, and I saw the build number of the firmware in the controller, which was a very low number, 0.0.15, was one of the numbers that I remember. And I was able to see them turn on one of the controllers that they were, and the number, while it was pretty small, it was different. So the view that you get in the little screen has pretty much everything you would want to see, including its view and its mode. The phone or whatever, the new app that's going to be out is going to have just a bit more information, a bit more camera controls, but you can control pretty much everything through the controller screen. Yes, backward compatibility. That was the word that I was looking for the XSP, from the EVO. Yeah, Elijah, but that's what they want to start out the what's the word I want to say, the outmoding of the XSP, so they don't want to create buzz as far as that goes. Building go blank if the phone is connected. I don't believe so, but I didn't see that, because they were they had a when they were flying, they had an NVIDIA Shield, I believe, there beside it, and they had the view of the camera on the controller, but they're using the Shield to do like the active track stuff and stuff like that, but they had it hooked up to the monitors there. So yes. Oh yeah. So no, I don't think the thing goes blank. Yeah, that was one of the remotes that they had sitting out there. When you turned it on, it said connecting it first, and then it said taking off. So it might have been one of those other ones. Let's see, I'm going to look at that real quick. And they give me a beanie. And it's too hot in here for that. Too hot in here for that. But yeah, any of these pages that you want to go to, the Autel Robotics, owners group, or the Autel Robotic EVO owners group, which there's no owners to, but well, if you ever call in and talk with any of the support and you need anything done to your X-Star that you have to send it back to them, or in the future your EVO, just ask them. They have plenty of them. They have plenty of them. Because I got keychains and pens and all kinds of good stuff from there. So, and not just from Autel, but from a whole bunch of other ones. And I will go back to flight characteristics. William, you had asked earlier. It is from inside, it is very stable. Not using any GPS or anything like that. And it's very, its movements are aggressive, I put it that way, in the small space that they had there. So the little guy will get up and go, and the camera, as far as the camera goes, they get it up in the air there, and they go back and forth, you know, when they locks that. Other than the camera moving side to side, very stable. The active track thing that they had, where you draw a box over whatever it might be, it was kind of problematic. Hey Brad, glad you finally make it. Yeah, been on for over an hour now, almost 2 hours, hour and 45 minutes. But it's a very, very stable. Yes, that's one of the things that they said it would have, is all of your adjustments on every axis, on most of them. I might be wrong. And since you're here, okay, basically the whole rundown for the whole 2 hours is get rid of every drone because they're spying on us. No, I'm just teasing. That's only DJI. Yes, in the different versions. As they tweak and adjust, yes, they did say that. Oh, later. Yes, the version 1, and this was a different conversation with Andrew and Hongfei. If you have an X-Star and you're on the latest firmware that's released and you still get that that's a tweak they were trying to get out of. Part of the firmware prior to that was trying to get something out of the EVO. That's why the X-Star still has that little bit, which they're working on. They are working on. They did say that they were working on it. Now that most of the development team is done with the EVO, they were going to take a few of them and start focusing back on the X-Star and getting all those little things that we've all been complaining about. You know, trying to get them ironed out as far as the X-Star goes. So now that, you know, the environment as far as the software goes between the two is very, very similar, it should be very easy. As Hongfei put it, it is very easy to do these little tweaks to the software, not the firmware. Firmware adjustments take a little bit more time. It's a little more in depth. To change one thing, you change 3 others. So you have to chase all those problems down. Yeah, that's one of the things about the X-Star and why some people had problems and some people didn't. They changed a few things like mid-production run within the version, because between the two that I have the older one. I have one that was, you know, early 16 and then one from 2017, and they are completely different. They fly pretty much the same, but they have their own little quirks, and you can tell the differences in it. And I thought it would be like a camera problem or something like that, but using both cameras that I have on the older drone, I still have the same problem. So yeah, there are little things different in between each production run, I guess. Yeah, and that's what Hongfei had said, you know, going back and doing little things. But one of the biggest things that he said about getting the 99 waypoints on the X-Star and getting, you know, a sync between devices, he said that was very easy. He said that was definitely something that he was going to tackle when they all got back. So hopefully they all made it home safe and sound. They're back in Washington safe and sound, and they're going to hit the ground running and, you know, really get this out. And before any of you ask, I do not know a release date. Okay, that's something they would not tell me. They said, you know, I believe it was second quarter. So here for the next 4 months, hopefully sooner. Yes, it'll make a lot of people happy, especially as commercial guys. Yeah, but the DJI thing, I talked to, you know, going through those booths, come out of one and ask a guy a question, go back into another, ask a completely different guy the exact same question, and because I wanted to know, because there were some other people talking about they were going to do something at some event later on and not CES. CES was more for that Ronin gimbal thing, which I see the need for something like that, and there were a lot of people there. As a matter of fact, I saw Sinbad. That was kind of cool. He's kind of tore up. But yeah, I don't. Whatever they got coming out, that might be some other. Who knows? Who knows? Some other camera gimbal holder thing. Maybe not a drone. Yeah. This thing. Yeah. Which, back to the point that I made earlier, is that all the stuff that was at CES is made in China, Korea. Because I don't know how many times I got asked if I wanted to be a distributor, especially for the underwater drones, which are very neat things. But I asked one of the guys at one of the booths with the underwater drones, and this attractive young lady gets right up in my face. You want to be a distributor? No, hon, I'm just asking questions. Thank you. And then I said, well, what does something like this cost? And he gave me a piece of paper and he wrote something down, and I know I'm sure he probably meant, whatever other currency, yen or something like that, but it was like $220,000. And I was like, $220,000? I don't think I'm a buyer at that. And he, oh, no, 2,200. And then the larger ones was like 22,000. So. I distribute, I'll tell my finances blow goats. Yeah, the yuan or won or whatever. I thought of that. While everyone that was from overseas that I spoke to was pretty good, there was still some difficulty in communicating in some of the questions that I was asking. But everybody was nice. Yeah. There were a lot of people from China and Korea there, though. A lot. No, William, they did not give me any. I asked that too. Yeah. Yeah, Brad, technical words I'm sure are. I'm sure are. But as far as a number and a quantity of how many they're going to make in a first run, not something that they would give up. Because I asked how many they've got sitting in crates in Washington right now, and they said, oh no, we don't have any. But they wouldn't have had something there that polished and not have a whole bunch of them ready to go. Yeah. Yeah, that's what they're doing starting out. I'm sure they've got a bunch of them ready to go. I'm sure of it. But they're going to see what kind of interest they get from here on out, from the release there at CES, to see how quickly they do, to see how far, or see how they've got to push their development team as far as the software goes. Because you've seen the screenshots of the different things. Not everything is completely polished, right to work what they want. As far as the interface goes, you could tell it need a little bit of tweaking. But I'm sure most everything under the hood is pretty good. They're just trying to get everything polished out before they say, okay, we're gonna start shipping these things on X day. I don't know how many pre-orders they have, but there have been quite a few people posting that they have done pre-orders. So there might be a number that they're looking for as far as a pre-order before they say, okay, we're going to ship it on this date. Yeah. And then if I do happen to end up getting an email saying, hey, we're going to send you one so you can review it and test it and put it through its paces, you guys are all going to be the very first to know that, unless they put some kind of gag order on me. Yeah, I know, because I asked the guys at Unique. I didn't ask the guys at DJI, but Unique, because their booth wasn't very busy. The guys at GDU, Wingsland, the guys at the Wingsland drones were very nice. They had a big area set up. They had as big of an area as Autel or DJI had as far as total space, but they didn't have a whole lot set up. They didn't have a big cage set up, but they had a lot of space, and their drones they're fairly well built. I mean, the quality was there. There was some few fit and finished things that I noticed on them, but pretty heavy drone, you know, more of half-hour flight time. Yep, Underdog will fly another day. And then the floating drones. There were a couple of those there too. The orange one, I don't know if you guys watch Flight Test or anything like that, but the one with the camera that goes underwater when you land, you can land it in the water and everything like that. That was another one where I was asked to be a distributor, but I got asked to be a distributor by all kinds of things, not just drones. But that's a really neat idea. They had a fishing drone there. That was pretty cool. And when I do end up getting time, I know I wasted about 2 hours here now talking about this stuff. When I do get time, I'm going to try to make a video with all the different pictures and videos and things that I got when I was there. But again, I have it on another computer, and yeah, I didn't prepare too much for this. But this was a whole lot easier than, you know, shooting everything and then editing the whole thing and, you know, going back and editing again, which if you guys do any of this kind of stuff, you know how much of a pain in the butt that can be when you're trying to get a lot of information out at one time. And it not be a 45-minute video, because who's going to watch a 45-minute video? Sweet. I may take you up on that, Brad. Yeah, William, I will. I had posted a lot of them in a Slack group, and I don't know if you're part of the Slack group, but Elijah, if you can, invite William to the group so you can see some of those pictures that I posted. If he's not already a member. And I'll definitely be helping out more when I get a little bit more time. What do you mean? I mean, there's a lot of us are going to keep these things going for quite a long time. Yeah, but the great thing about the group, and I told Hong Fei about it, because I believe Andrew's a part of the group, if I'm not mistaken. I told him he needs to be a part of it too, so he can see he can see what we're talking about, because all those ideas are there. And he said when he got back, he was going to look into it. He's going to talk with Andrew and see if he can't get himself added to it. That way he can see what we're talking about. And he's working directly with the development team overseas and the few people that they have on development here. So he's our go-to as far as getting any more good stuff for the X-Star from here on out, and as far as software goes. So I can see, there's a good use for it, if not just for helping develop the X-Star, or helping with working bugs and kinks out, but more just sharing information of how we all figure out what we figured out on each of ours, so we can help out everybody else. Yeah, I actually asked them if they would, give us an official stamp of approval as far as that goes. Yeah. EVO's not in Slack because nobody has one yet. And there would be a big group of guys that don't have one that just shares the same pictures that everybody has at this point. The Slack group is meant for, the little documents and walkthroughs and things of that nature for the X-Star, to show all tell that there's some serious ones of us out here that really would like to see more done with the X-Star. Right. Yeah. Yeah, but it's good if we're all fans in that group. There's none of these guys coming in and saying, "Ah, man, my X-Star, man, it's not as orange as everybody else's." Ugh. See, that's the best part about the Slack group. But yeah, if you want to be a part of the group, I can't be the one. Elijah is the one to talk to as far as that goes. So if you didn't want that many more people, Elijah, well, there's only 10 people here, and who knows how many's going to sit through a 2-hour long live stream video. After this hits YouTube, for sure, without a doubt, there's going to be too many people that are going to be like, "Oh man, I'm going to sit here and watch this whole thing. I'm going to watch this bald guy talk about drones, get a nerd boner." Okay. Oh man. Well, do we have any more technical, not so technical questions about the EVO, X-Star, and all that kind of stuff? I think I covered everything, more or less, give or take. I know there's stuff that I'm forgetting. No, I meant to ask them about that, Heath. And there may have been, now that I think about it, but I don't think any, most of the talking that we were doing was more X-Star based. And yeah, if you guys Remember Brad's Drones here. He does a live stream. Was it every Wednesday or Thursday? Um, and he's got a lot of the footage and pictures and things of that nature from CES this year. I was sending him stuff pretty consistent. I tried to it anyhow. It's like that. So not much to do. Is kind of playing. Try contacts. Do something not shuttered. Elijah, I did talk with those three and a couple of the other guys that were there. I don't remember the bigger guy's name, but there was a guy there with a beard and a great big guy that didn't have an Autel shirt on, but he was one of the Autel representatives there at the show. I told him about the group. I told Hongfei about the group. Of course, I'm pretty sure that Tim and Andrew knew about the group. But again, they're only going to do as much as what the company they work for, it's their, their bread and butter. They're not going to, if they got a company policy that says, hey, you're not going to release any information that we don't tell you, they might have something where they can't. So, we'll just, but one of the bigger things that I did talk to all of them about was them being so tight-lipped. I said the biggest thing that you guys can do, and the best thing that you guys can do, even if there's no information given about anything, even if you guys just come on and say, hey, be real. Don't just ask, hey, what was your best flying experience like today? Not, hey guys, it's crappy here in Washington today. Just be real. Don't be, like so commercialized about it. And they agree. They understand. They get it. They want to communicate more, but they're trying to keep a tight lid on some things, and they don't want everything to come out. And, especially like myself, you get me drinking, tell you my bank account number. Yeah, that would be great if they would take some of that stuff down, if they could, but they also want to be, they want to be somewhat transparent, while it kind of sucks that they say, oh, we're going to give you this and that and this camera, that camera, this ability, that ability, and then don't. Yeah, I'm an owner, I get it, It's the same thing when I bought Fords, Yeah, there's a lot of things that they could make a post on, something somewhere that would help to quell a lot of the naysayers about that. But, they want to keep, with the team being so small here in the United States, they want to keep them focused on what they're good at and not being on Facebook all day. Let's see. On me. Okay, here. There's a press release on me, right? Yeah. Yes and no, Elijah. I will say that between all of the different drone manufacturers that were at CES this year, the two busiest were DJI and Autel. A close third would probably be Unique. Fourth would probably be Walkera or AEE, or the Yamaha booth with their huge remote helicopters for spraying, and they did have an octocopter there that was massive. They were fairly busy, but they weren't busy for the drones. It was about the motorcycle that had a robot attached to it that rode itself, and that was pretty neat. But yeah, and then all the other little ones. The what was that? World Tech Toys was letting everybody come in and fly whatever they wanted. I mean, that was pretty neat. But they're all those little throwaway drones. The racing drones, the guys from, and I can't remember the name of that company. Somebody, Can't remember it, but they make the racing. It was a Raptor or something like. I don't remember what it was, but they had guys there actually racing drones through this little obstacle course, which is kind of neat. Yeah. And this is another thing, William. Thanks for making that comment. Nice to hear. Autel made a good impression and attracted interest. Here is the one thing that I am going to say that I noticed about Autel versus everybody else there. Again, I spoke to every manufacturer there for drones. Some I understood, some I didn't, of course. But the major ones, the Autel, DJI, Unique, Walkera, Wingsland. When I asked the guys at Autel, well, what do you think about this drone? And it's like everything they said about every other manufacturer is like that's a really good product. I really think they've got something going there. You know, I asked them about, well, what do you think about? I asked the guys at Autel, what do you think about the orange drone from Unique? And they said it's a very, very, very good platform, very steady. Nothing but positive things to say about everything that I asked them about. I went to DJI and I said, what do you think about this EVO? And the first thing the guy from DJI said was, they're just trying to copy our Mavic. They won't last. Went over to Unique and said, hey, what do you guys think about the Autel and the X-Star and the EVO? They won't be around for very long. Okay. And then the same thing at Walkera. What do you think about they all had something negative to say. It's all about sales, of course, but Autel, none of the guys said anything negative about any of the competition. That really hit home for me. And I even tried to get him to say something negative. He wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Yeah. And the other big thing that I heard a lot of people, a lot of conversations, while we're walking around the booths, there are people talking to representatives and things like that, and you hear, but what if I have a problem? One of the main things that they were pushing at Autel was like, if you have a problem, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, call us. Well, maybe not 24 hours a day. I can't remember exactly what that is, but about customer service. It wasn't the same at anybody else, especially the off Chinese brands that were there, of course. Unless you spoke Chinese, then it would probably be easy. But not everybody speaks Chinese or Korean or Japanese or whatever language. And I hate having these little gaps in here. Yeah. Eagle VP, who's that? All right, Brad. We'll catch you later, bud. This one's getting kind of long anyhow. Well, if you're just in the Slack and say anything further, just we'll link you to it. With Hongfei, yeah, he kind of gave me that line. I'll look into it. But I mentioned it to him 3 or 4 times, and I really think he was going to look into it a bit more. I'm sure he's kind of busy because he's like one of the main developers. But Andrew and Tim, I'm pretty sure they didn't just give me their notes. Yes, like, yeah, we're aware. They're aware of all this stuff. It's just what they're, as employees, what they're allowed to do. So yeah, kind of gave me that line, but kind of not. Let's stay hopeful. And trust me, if I have any communications, if I have any communications with those guys, I'm definitely gonna promote it a little bit. And one of the biggest things is that, even they knew what I was there to do, of course, to produce a YouTube video about everything that went on there. But I also didn't want to throw them under the bus and be like, come on, man, tell me all this information. I'm going to go and spill my guts. No, everything that was said in confidence is going to stay in confidence. So just, as a courtesy to those guys, because, I'm sure if they released any of the information that they shouldn't, then they'd get in trouble. And I don't want anybody to lose their job over, we're gonna produce another drone. It's gonna be pussy pink, so you can see it real good. Well, and I don't know if it's Keith. Send me a message on the back end here. Or find me on Facebook, Matt Harris on Facebook, member of Autel Owners Robotics Group. Send me a message so I can see that. But I appreciate it, and I'm gonna have to let's see if I can do that right here. Let's see. Open a new tab. I'm going to go to your channel now. And I am going to subscribe. Yeah, let me come back here. But I'm subscribed. Yeah, I am honestly, I am a bit disappointed in them dropping the X-Star. But we're still going to be able to get some bits and pieces. So as long as we can still get shells, any of the other parts inside, they're not going to make available. I'm sure they may, maybe, but as far as motors goes, you can find other ones out there that you'd have to solder in. But yeah, as long as we can still get shells and screws and dampers and the camera ribbon, little cable, then yeah. Yeah, Elijah, thanks for coming, Bubba. Well, now we're starting to get more people. Hang on. Almost 2 hours and 20 minutes. Two hours and 20 minutes. See you, Bubba. But yeah, and guys, if nobody has any more questions, I do believe that I'm going to get off here because it's almost 5:30 here, and I've actually got to go do some work. Unfortunately, the reason why I was delayed from getting back is part of what I do. I do snow removal for a lot of big places here in the area. And I got to make sure all my guys are doing the job that I get paid to do. So I got to go and do that tonight. But yeah, when I do end up getting a minute to throw some things together, throw some pictures together, and put some comments against it, I will put it up. I would say share this video, but I wouldn't, because it's almost going to be 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and there's some people out there that got time to watch it, and other people wants it all boiled down. When I get the time, I will go ahead and get it all boiled down with all the other pictures and videos and things of that, of all the other cool stuff that was at CES this year. I'll put it out there. But remember, guys, there was another 100 channels out there that had the same kind of video out there. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button. I don't even know if the little bell icon works, because I do it for everything that I've got, and I only get a handful of them come through, so don't even worry about that. But give me a good like, and I appreciate it, guys, and I will see you in the next one.